assumption was, in terms of secularization theory, that there was a material basis, and that as our material world, i.e. our economy and our social relations changed, that this would inevitably help to kind of wipe away religion, okay? That basically this kind of this new world that we live in as humans would inevitably, and that's key to the theory, would inevitably lead to the disappearance of religion. I'll say a little bit more about how that happens, but these are key points in the theory, that we're in modernity, we're in a new page, a new stage in history, that where new material conditions characterize our point in history, and that religion is going to evaporate, right? Well, what are some of the ways that religion is going to evaporate? Well, one, religious meaning is now challenged. As I mentioned before, we live in a pluralistic world, all right, where there are many religions, many ways of thinking about the world. We live in a rationalized world, right, where scientific knowledge is legitimate and in fact might rule our lives, and that these two things together would basically make religious systems and ideas, religion themselves, relativized, okay? Relativized, and therefore meaningless for people, and therefore lead to a decline in belief. It was almost as automatic as that some sociologists wrote, that these things will happen. This is what's happening, this is what's going to happen, and poof, before you know it, religion will have disappeared, okay? Another way that secularization theory works is that it talks about how in modernity, individuals, religion will change because individuals have changed. You've no doubt heard before, if you've taken another intro to sociology class, there's this great phrase that once upon a time individuals were defined by their ascribed roles. And what that meant was you were born into, to use our example, into Tucson, into a Mexican-American Catholic family. That's who you are. That's your universe. Nothing's going to change in the concept of who you are, of family, of ethnicity, of background, of religion, and you might not even leave Tucson, right? Well, things changed definitely in the 1900s, and we move into what sociologists called an achieved identity, which means your religion, your education, maybe even your own concept of your own racial identity, are all things that you kind of get to choose at some level and kind of create at some level. Now, I'm not saying that social inequality and stratification doesn't exist, but in terms of how individuals think about themselves, they think about themselves as achieving who they are, kind of making conscious choices to get somewhere. And if that's the case, well then maybe religion won't hang on so long, because it won't kind of be passed down from mom or dad to children. Also, we're more autonomous individuals, and we tend to look at ourselves as kind of the authority on our lives. So maybe that will make us less likely to turn to religion for kind of authority or answering about questions. So sociologists look at what's changed about individuals in modernity and say, aha, these are going to lead to big changes within religion. And then a couple of the biggest concepts to know about secularization, and these are some of my favorites, are two things. One, sociologists say, given what we've just said about individuals, that religion will become privatized, right? We'll all kind of retreat to maybe our own kind of set of religious beliefs, maybe our own small worshiping religious community, and it'll all be kind of focused on ourselves. Our religious beliefs and teachings will just become our own. Or to use Peter Berger's word, where sacred canopy before used to cover a whole social group, maybe a whole nation, now maybe we have all of our own little sacred canopies, and they're all different, and they're all kind of our own religious sensibilities on a very personal, privatized level. And then the key classic one for secularization theory is this funky term called differentiation. And the argument here goes something like this, that once upon a time, we'll use the Middle Ages as an example because that's a cute and fuzzy example. Once upon a time in the Middle Ages, we had these things called the economy, politics, society, and all of this was encompassed by religion. And that's how you're supposed to say it to get the seriousness of this. In other words, religion and the church had a lot to say about the economy. Think for a second of Max Weber's argument that once upon a time usury, saving money, loaning money, making money on interest was unethical. Okay, that was because religion had a lot more to say about the economic sphere. Once upon a time it used to be the Pope would lay his hands on the king and say, aha, you're the king, you can lead the country. Well, that's because religion had a lot to say in the political sphere. Once upon a time it was that local religious leaders had a lot of control over marriage and settling family arguments and that sort of stuff. Well, that's because religion had a lot to do in this social sphere or the civil sphere, okay? That's kind of the classic medieval view. Well, what secularization theory says is everything is so changed that now we still have all those social sectors, but guess what? They're all separated, and they're maybe not equal anymore. Maybe it is that not only are they separated, but religion may have a super tiny role over here, okay? So when you make investment decisions nowadays, you don't go to your local priest to talk about it, right? When you make voting decisions, well, maybe you don't go to the rabbis or the local minister to discuss who should be the political ruler. Heck, they aren't even political rulers. They're democratically elected. And then over here in society, well, maybe it is when you're having trouble, you go to a psychologist nowadays, or you go to a medical doctor for your medical care. So the argument here is that in this concept of differentiation, religion has lost its institutional role, okay? So not only, as I mentioned before, have meaning systems changed, and have individuals changed, and has scientific reasoning shown up, and have individuals become more privatized and focused on their own kind of achieved religious identity. Not only all that, but institutionally in our world, religion has no longer been this overarching institutional force with legitimate authority everywhere, but instead has its own little corner of authority right over here. So those are all the arguments about secularization, all them basically saying a key couple things. One, religion we expect to decline. We expect religious belief to decline. We expect religious authority to decline in individuals' lives as well as in the lives of a whole society. And we expect religion's position to basically kind of be pushed to the side in all these various spheres of life, from learning to medical care, to economic decision, to politics, okay? So that's kind of the wide range of what secularization theory says. Now here's the question, and it's really the same question that Time Magazine started us off with. Is it right? In Time Magazine's language, was God dead or is God dying? Or in sociologists' language, has society secularized? Is secularization a process we can point to and say, yes, it's happened? Or is it possible that secularization has happened partly, that's one type of change in religion? Or is it possible that religion's just kind of changed? It hasn't disappeared or gone away, but it's just shifted how it looks in the modern world. Those are the questions that your next authors get to. And let me warn you, the next reading that you do, these authors are really polemical and rhetorical. These sociologists writing in the 1980s and 1990s and early 2000s, these two sociologists who write the reading for next time, what they want to say is they're really aggressive, and they're going to say, no, you stupid sociologists, we're sociologists, but you stupid sociologists were wrong, and we're going to tell you how you were wrong about secularization theory. And so these two writings say secularization theory, get out of here. And they want to try and convince us that it's totally wrong. I'm going to suggest that we take a little bit more of a middle ground. But let's hear them out. Since we heard out today's argument that secularization is happening, let's hear out Thursday's argument that secularization is just a bunch of malarkey. Okay? That's it for now. Hope you're doing well. Start studying for that midterm exam and start sending me questions. Take care. Bye-bye.